All right, let's move on to the session proper. This is my dog. I didn't want her. My wife begged for 7 years for a dog, and I said no. I love her now, probably more than my wife. I know she's not going to watch this, that's why. But all of my little talks are first run by Willow to see if she's all right with it, and you know, she answers me back in my head, but that's how these are all approved, and she's approved it, so I'm feeling confident that you guys will get something out of our session today. So it's been Willow approved. Who here thinks that fast websites are good? Yeah? Who needs to be convinced that faster websites mean more money, better traffic and all that? Who needs to be convinced that, you know, why speed up a website? Nobody. Awesome. That's what I was hoping for. So I doubted myself when I put these stats in to scare you, because I was scared there'd be people here that wouldn't understand that this is so important. I'll run through them quickly, but delays of over 3 seconds can lead to a 40% abandonment. That's crazy, you know, so waiting extra 3 seconds, 40% of people are just going to bail. 47% of people expect a site to load within 2 seconds. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have checked, but there's not a lot of websites out there that load in under 2 seconds. And 20% of users abandon their cart if the transaction process is too slow. So the point I'm making here is that it makes a fantastic business sense to speed up your WordPress website, or your website in general. I just love WordPress, that's why I'm doing it about WordPress, but websites in general. It's been touted as a ranking factor. Now, obviously it's not a direct ranking factor, although Google will penalize you if you have a very slow website, but it's more about user experience. Everybody's had that frustrating experience where you're on a website and it's just so slow, you know, and come on, move! I just want to give you my money. Go! It's a terrible user experience, and that ultimately is going to affect your time on page, it's going to make you bounce quicker, and it's going to make you frustrated with the brand. You know, I work at a branding agency and I think a bit about brand from time to time, and if you've got a poor experience, you're equating that to the, like, if you can't even take my money, how are you going to ship your product to me? How? I don't believe you. So it's critical, but you guys all believe that already, so I don't really need to sell you on it. I'm going to keep moving. All right. So the first thing you need to do is work out, does your website suck? Yeah? Because if what gets measured gets managed, and if you don't know, you don't know. So there are tools. There are 2 tools that I'm going to cover because these are the 2 tools that I use all day, every day. But there are other tools. Just a quick overview of what we're going to go through. I'm going to go through measurement. I'm going to give you the things you must do, as in these are quick wins, these will get you over the line, this will make it happen. And then I'm going to dig a little bit deeper, and then I'm going to give you some recommendations about dev, about what your developers should be using. And then ultimately one developer is going to poke a hole in something I say, and we're going to have a discussion. So my parents always called them. They're not fights, they're discussions. So we're going to start with Google Page Speed Insights. Oh, and I'll send this to you all, these slides, because I've got links to absolutely everything in here so that you don't have to go hunting. Now, this tool is okay, but it's not amazing. You can see you get a number, you get a score. And I'm picking on Hagues again. I'm hoping one day someone from Hagues calls me and gives me a mouthful, or lets me know that they would like me to fix their marketing, because every time I do a presentation, Hagues is my example, and every time I go, I wonder if they're going to get me on this. Nah, they suck at this too. And it's only because I love you. I'm a celiac and I can't eat like Cadbury chocolate because it may contain gluten, so I unfortunately have to eat Hagues. It's hard. It's a hard life. I love you guys. Just do better digital marketing. All right. So this is a 9 out of 10. I mean, not a 9 out of 10. It's a 9 out of 100. Now, what does that mean? That doesn't actually mean much. I'm sorry to say. What it's saying is, of the 100 tests, of the 100 things you could do to make a fast website, you did 9 of them. So it's really a very arbitrary number, this 9 or 10 or 80. I think I've got 81 on one of my websites at the moment. It's just saying of all the things you could do to speed up your website, these are the things you've done. There is one really useful metric here. Does anyone know what that metric is? No? It's cool. It is first meaningful paint, right here, 6.8 seconds. That sucks. What does that mean though? It means that it took 6.8 seconds for the information on the page to load that someone wants to see. So you had to wait 6.8 seconds before you saw the page, before it became useful to you. And that's what I want you to keep in mind, because there are lots of ways that you can measure speed, and speed is an abstract kind of idea. But first content paint is a really good way of understanding, did I give the user a good experience? Now, if you have to wait 6.8 seconds for a website to load, that's not a good experience. Just some things to note here. We're on the mobile version of the website. You'll always get a better score on the desktop, but who cares? Google is indexing the mobile version of the websites. 70% of web traffic is on mobile these days. I'm not saying that desktop isn't important. I'm just saying that mobile is where it's at. So that's what we need to optimize for. And that's what we need to think about when we think about fast websites. It's not, can I sit at home with my NBN maxed out, super fast desktop computer? Yeah, it's really quick. But if you're in Nuruyupta and you're on 3G at best, and you're on your phone, are you still going to have a good experience? And that's what we want for our customers. We want that good experience. We want them to trust us. So yeah, this is the first tool. It does give you a lot of insights on what you could do. Oh, I thought I'd put another slide in there, but clearly not. Further down here, like right here, it'll give you some tips on some things that you can do to fix. But probably the best thing that you can do, and I'm not here to teach you how to read all of these charts. I'm trying to keep this high level so that anybody can kind of pick up these tips and apply them to their website and get a faster website. But yeah, there's some great tips just down there that will teach you what you can do. This is my favorite tool. It's called GT Metrics. Pardon me. And 15.7 seconds is a fully loaded time. Now, again, this isn't a perfect measure of anything, but it gives you a benchmark to say that it takes 17 seconds for the website to load. 15, sorry. Now, you've got to take that conjunction with the first meaningful paint, because if you've got half a second for first meaningful paint, 20 seconds for full load, who cares? You know, as long as it gets to the user, who cares how long the whole website takes to load? But it's a good measure. The other thing we've got here is a page size of 4.79 meg. Is anyone old enough to know how many floppy disks that is? It's 3. It is, it's 3. Get a prize. That's a lot of floppy disks to be waiting to load. You know, ideally you would want that to be, I don't know, like half a meg at most. That's a heavy website. And the other thing I want to point out here is requests. So this is how many times the website talks to the server. You don't want it to talk 100 times. That's what's slowing the website down. Again, I'm going to keep it abstract terms, but feel free to tell me off or say, no, I don't think that's right. We can discuss it. Now, the other two scores, the page speed score and the Y-slow score, they don't really matter. Like, yeah, I think on the websites that I optimize, they're all about 97 to 99. But I didn't go out to try and make them that way. It's just as you optimize a site, that's what happens. But there is some good, useful insights down here and again down here that you can go through and find some things out. But I'm not here to teach you about reading all of these ins and outs, because that would be really boring. Who was it, the tag manager one with me? And they were like, whoa, yeah, I got way too deep. So I'm trying to keep it a little bit more broad and a little bit more actionable. But another great feature of GT Metrics is this waterfall chart. Waterfall chart, not waterflow chart, waterfall chart. So this shows you all the things that were loaded on the website. You can actually filter them: HTML, CSS, JavaScript, fonts, images, and so on. This is fantastic even for the layperson who doesn't know anything about what they're doing, to try and find something that is holding up the show. So I really probably should have put one in here that was holding up the show, because these are all conforming. But you can see there's a lot of requests here. If you can't take away nothing else from this, go throw your website in here, and then if you find something that's got a really long bar on it, call your web developer and go, what's that? Why is that there? Fix it. Make it better. And they will. Web developers are lovely people. They want to make things work, but you've got to put it in the confines of something they can actually do. I want a website that loads in under a second. You know, that's a very hard thing to achieve. But if you can be clear about what you want, web developers are fantastic people. And just so you know, that's Google's expectation. I didn't put it in here because I didn't want to have rotten fruit thrown at me. But Google is aiming for everyone to have a 1 second load time, which I think in Australia with a fantastic internet is a little bit silly. But aiming for under 3 is good. And you know, I try and push to under 2 as often as I can. But if you've got a website that loads in under 3 seconds, that's pretty good. Let's keep moving. So, speed measurement tools. We have PageSpeed Insights, GTmetrix. Pingdom Tools is not bad. It's very similar to those two. And webpagetest.org. Anyone here work in an agency or have to justify speeding up a website? Yeah, we got one. All right, I'm talking just to you. This tool's amazing. What you can do is load 2 websites in. It takes a video of how long they load side by side. And when your client goes, why do I need a fast website? You put their website in, you put a competitor's website in, and when their website takes twice as long, you say, that's why. Real simple. It's also a fantastic tool. But yeah, these are the tools I use to measure. Any questions so far about measurement? No? Good. I can't tell if it's just me or if, you know, there's just no questions. Usually there's questions with other hosts. I'm going to take it personally. Maybe I'm just a bit scary, but hopefully we'll get some questions along the line. Hosting. So I'm going to cover 4 points in this section. I tried to list them as which was most important, and I kept moving them around, and I just realized that all 4 things I'm about to cover are as important as each other, but this is the most important, and I'm going to say that about all 4. So, hosting. Okay. When we're talking about WordPress, we are talking about a system. It's, you know, there's a lot of things going on in the background, and the more plugins you've got, the more things going on in the background. But what I like the analogy that I heard from Jono Alderson, if you're watching, mate, this is flattery, right? Imitation is the greatest form of flattery. I'm just ripping you off. It's fine. But basically, what WordPress does is it takes a bunch of packages and runs them across all these rollers to deliver the information that you need. So you go in and you say, I want homepage. It finds homepage and all the bits, packages it up and rolls it off to you. In a basic sense, that's what your hosting does. So I'm going to go across all these different ways about how you can make your hosting faster. How you can make your website faster and deliver these packages faster to people, which is the information. But a great way of solving this problem is just get faster rollers. The faster your rollers, the faster people see the information. And that's where hosting comes in. Who here, and maybe I won't do that, it might embarrass you. When I first started doing this sort of stuff, I had a hosting company that had an animal on it, HostGator. They suck. If you have a hosting provider that has an animal in it, you're in the wrong place. I'm sorry, you are. If you couldn't go out to dinner, like just by yourself, just one person, with the amount you pay for hosting every month, you are robbing yourself. So if you're paying $20 a month hosting, you're not getting away with anything, you're not winning anything, you're missing out on great opportunities to drive, it's exciting. You're missing out on great opportunities to drive more people to your website and get them to have a better engagement and a better usage of your website. Cheap hosting is nasty, you know? I can't overstate this enough. Stay away from the cheap shared hosting. Pay $30, $40, $50, $60 a month for good quality, 100, whatever, 1,000, I don't know. Don't pay pocket change for hosting, because if you are, you're missing out on lots of opportunities. That's all I mean.
What do you get for that difference?
What do you get for that difference? You get a faster website, you get a more secure website, you get a better user experience. With a faster website comes better ranking and better user experience. So that's what you get for the money. And it's nothing. Anyone who's running a business, you know, the difference between $20 a month and $100 a month at the higher end of hosting is not a lot of money for running a business. Is it really, honestly? $80. You know, that's what, an hour or two of your employees' time. It's really not, it's not worth the saving to miss out on the user experience that your website has. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
No?
Are you saying like $50, $60?
That's
for the account or for every domain?
I'm talking about domain, yeah.
For every domain, you should be paying about.
You should be paying, yeah, $50, $60, $100. If you're paying $20 a domain, unless you've got some mad deal that I don't know about, and if you do, come and tell me afterwards. You're paying for some sort of VIP, you're paying for some sort of shared hosting where there's a bunch of other people that are on the server with you, and that's bad news. That means that if they suddenly have a bunch more traffic, then you're going to suffer for that. It means that you're more vulnerable to attacks because if they get hacked, you get hacked. Yeah? And I'm overstating this, but really it's just, in the grand scheme of things, not a lot of money. And there's just this perception that hosting is $20, you know, and that if you talk about $100 a month hosting, oh, wow, so much money. But if you take a step back and you just think about it for a second, this is the lifeblood of your business. You should be able to pay a fair bit of money to have it run effectively. I'm a little bit passionate about this. I'm just going to keep moving. All right. Here are the hosting companies that I recommend. There are others that are good, but these are the ones I've dealt with and that work for me. Okay, so WP Engine, really well known, great support, fantastic. Digital Engine, these guys are new, but they do some crazy stuff. Like, most of what I'm going to tell you tonight, they kind of just build into their process. So you give them the login to your website, and then they bring their website over to their hosting, and it's magically faster. It's nuts. It's on AWS for those of you that care, using CloudFront, and they've optimized all the things that you could do. They've kind of built it into their package, and you just give them and then you take away all the pain. It's not a sponsored spot, I'm just shocked by it. WP Engine also fantastic. Now those are the kind of, they'll help you solve your problem type of people, where you say, here's my website, and they'll deal with the rest. And then you've got SiteGround that kind of sits in the middle, where they'll set up the WordPress for you and off you go by yourself. And SiteGround are also fantastic. My personal hosting provider is DigitalOcean. You need a little bit more nous, a little bit more developer knowledge to be able to get that up and running. It doesn't mean you can't pay a developer to do it for you. But for me, it's cost, I was just banging on about cost, but it's cost effective and it's also very fast. Questions? No? Any problems with those recommendations?
So how come you haven't got AWS on there?
Because, AWS could sit right under DigitalOcean if you wanted to, in terms of fucking around. It's a good point, actually. AWS should be on there.
I wasn't trying to criticize it.
No, it's it is a fantastic place. AWS is a fantastic service. They're very fast. Does anyone know who AWS is? This is an awesome kind of segue into nothing to do with what we're talking about. AWS is Amazon Web Services. They power, is it 70% of the internet? 30%? It's an obscene amount of the web is powered by Amazon, and that's where they make their money, not selling you books you never heard of. But yeah, they're also a great service. Again, you'll need a developer to set it all up for you, but it is fantastic. Thank you. All right, image optimization. This is the most important thing you can do for your website. Why? Giant images are a real problem. So what have I got on the next slide? All right, image size. I don't know how many times I've run a website for a page speed and then I've looked at it and they've got 5 megabyte images. Just images. Like that means that the website, the image is like 4 times bigger than the view report of your, if it was in the size of the pixels of what it is, it would sit out the side of your screen. It's nuts. And that's just because you built a website and you didn't know any better. It's not your fault. No one told you that 5 meg or 2 meg images are way too fucking big for a website. But they are. They should be in kilobytes, under 300, even less if you can get away with it. But sizing your image is important. So when you're looking at the pixels, unless you're on an iMac, your fancy 5K iMac, you don't need 5,000 pixels for your images. It's too freaking big. What's your target audience? If you're running a photography website and you want the most beautiful images, then you need to deal with a trade-off. But I'm pretty sure everyone in the room, you need to have small images. Now you can do that by going through every page of your site, looking at every image, and then bringing it out and resizing it, fucking around with it. Or I'll get to a simpler solution in a second. So the other thing is image optimization. Now that's where an algorithm, man, it's very exciting. That is where an algorithm comes and it sees where some pixels are similar to other pixels and it rips a bunch of the weight out of the image. I'm sure there's someone here that could explain it better than that, but basically it takes a picture and it goes, a lot of these are real similar, so I'm going to take all of the background crap out of the way and just give you what you need to display a virtually the same image, but at a much smaller rate. You look like you want to go. We're all here learning together.
So, okay, you've got 2 main formats, JPEG and PNG. JPEG is lossless, which means it'll actually combine colours and decrease the quality as you shrink the image. PNG will hold the quality. You've got PNG 24 and 8, and basically what it will do is it'll take the image with PNG and it'll create a palette. And so instead of doing each pixel correct, it'll go up a palette, which is basically a lookup table, and it'll take the individual colours. So instead of having 4 bytes for 1 pixel, it'll shrink it down to just a lookup in that table, which will shrink the images. And then you've got image size as well. And that's one of the major factors in shrinking the size, which you're talking about.
Perfect. Well done. Woo! It's very hard to clap with 2 things in your head. That's awesome. We're all learning together. All right. So you can go and do all this manually and pull it out, bring it in, and optimize it and put it back in, or you can get a plugin to do all the heavy lifting for you, which is what I do. I'm lazy. So in no particular order, you've got Smush, EWW or EU, as I like to call it, Tiny PNG, which is cool. They've got a panda.
Plugins to the website.
Well, that's a fantastic question.
You should do it manually.
It'd be fantastic to do it manually. That's an awesome question. It'd be fantastic to do it manually. I had a website recently with 5,000 images in it. It's not worth it. I can.
You can use it if you like. You can do bulk, rather than make single image.
You can, but you still need to pull each image out and pull it back in. If you use one of these plugins, you hit a button and it's done. I mean, and to be honest, you can run the optimization through the website and uninstall the plugin after you're finished if you want. So you're right, the more plugins you put in, the more complexity you put in, the worse it is. But I would argue that an image optimization plugin provides so much more value than it takes away that it's earned its right on there, especially compared to some of the other plugins.
Did you say that after optimizing all the images, you can uninstall the plugin and it will still be there?
Yeah, absolutely. Depending on which one you use. I like Short Pixel because it's cheaper for bulk, so we're talking about 5,000 optimizations there. That was like $10 or $5 to get all of those shrunk down and running beautifully. And you're right, there's a section in here at the end about talking about your developer when you build a new website. You should absolutely just every image that goes on your website should be sized perfectly. You should have at least 2 versions of it, a mobile version, a desktop version, and you should run it through some compression so that it's done what we talked about here, so that it's as small as it can possibly be. If you're in a position where you've already got a website that already has a shit ton of images in it, I mean, if you've got the time to pull them all out and optimize them and put them back in, my hat is off to you. But I've got the feeling that most people in this room do not have the time to optimize 5,000 images. Yeah, so these are my recommendations for image optimization plugins. Thank you for your get.
Do you know an image recycle plugin as well?
Can you speak?
Image recycle?
Oh, there's lots. There are lots and lots of plugins. They all do very similar things. These are just the 4 that I've used. I'm sure that one works well too. Yeah, it's a matter of preference really. But yes, big fat images will slow down your website. Get a plugin or go and pull them all out and optimize them. That really is the best way. I'm just lazy, I'll be honest with you. Moving on. So, a CDN. This is the most important thing you can do for your website. Who knows what a CDN is? Awesome.
Explain.
I'm going to explain it, because only half the people put their hands up. Basically, it's thinking about where is the closest local computer that's going to serve you your website. So your website has to live on a computer somewhere when you go and get it. Now, one of the limitations with the speed of a website is actually the speed of light. Most of the information that you get off the internet actually runs through fiber optic cables, even though I talked about mobile just recently. But and if you were to get a piece of information that went from the east to the west coast of the US, that's 300 milliseconds right there. That's a third of a second just to travel that distance before you even do anything with it. I mean, if your server's in the US, it's much, much further. Yeah, so you might be losing a second just by serving your website in the US, which is cheaper. The way to get around that is with a content delivery network. And this is usually a very cheap or relatively cheap solution where there are hundreds of nodes all over the world, where there's a computer that's very close to you, might be in Melbourne or Sydney, or sometimes even in Adelaide, where a version of your website is hosted to the customer, whichever node they're closest to. Does that make sense? Again, I'm not explaining the technology perfectly, and that's partly because I want it to be clear and understandable, and partly because I don't want to be here all night talking about CDNs. Cloudflare. Who's heard of Cloudflare? They're like my favorite company at the moment. They're doing all kinds of cool stuff. They're doing this really, again, this is another segue. They're doing this thing where you can confuse bots. You put this little checkbox on, and basically there's this real problem now with people that are scraping and websites for your email address, then they bother you with their emails, and like some crazy percentage of web traffic is just bots now, and they don't like it. So you press this confuse bots button, and when they detect someone who's scraping a website or using a bot, they'll serve up information in a way that actually rams up their CPU usage of these bastards that are making the internet slower, and make it less profitable for them to do this crappy stuff. And you think, oh, well, then that's going to ruin the environment because it's driving up all this electricity prices. No, they've thought of that too. So they're actually planting trees. They're doing carbon offset to mess with these people. I love this so much. Total segue. Cloudflare. Cloudflare is a freemium, but basically a free CDN that you can use. Basically, it sits between you and your website and the user and serves up a version of your website. It's really simple and easy to set up. Most people can do it with access to your DNS and CNAME records. Everyone should have Cloudflare. It's fantastic. You will see results straight away when you put Cloudflare on. There's really no reason not to do it. It does have cool stuff like I talked about, like scrape protection and you can actually also ban certain countries, which I found really useful. Russia was really hammering one of my sites. I just banned Russia. Pfft, no more Russia. Beautiful. Perfect. I'm like the Chinese government. Just, what Google? Doesn't exist. If only I could block him. Moving on. StackPath. I totally love this CDN. It's about $20 a month. And you can, from my understanding, you can use more than one site for that $20 a month. Now this is where probably a couple of devs are going to look at me like I'm nuts, but I actually run 2 CDNs. I run Cloudflare and I run StackPath. And that has been a 2-second drop in speed. Just for context, again, I'm jumping around a little bit here, but I love this stuff, but I actually do get really good wins. So I took a 20-second load time website down to 3. I took an 11-second website down to 0.9 of a second using the techniques that we're talking about here. So I can really cut time off of websites. This is really not very hard to implement, and I'm going to give you the resources on how to do that in the next slide. But running 2 CDNs means that you've got far more nodes, and which makes it closer, and also there's some sort of magic that happens with 2 of them. Any questions about that? I was expecting a developer to tell me I'm nuts and that I don't need to. Nobody. Awesome. All right. So how do you set 2 CDNs up? You use WP Rocket. There are other plugins that work for that as well. We're going to talk about WP Rocket in a second. I'm not going to go through, but this link here sends you to a guy that's way crazier about speed than me. Like he has this page, and it is the longest thing, and it's just everything you could possibly do for page speed, except probably 1 or 2 little bits, but anyway, it's nuts. But this here is just a configuration guide if you're using WP Rocket, StackPath, and Cloudflare. It's freaking awesome. I remember when I first read it, I was like, he didn't, oh my God. Massive nerd. Caching plugins. If you can do one thing for your website, the most important thing you can do is caching plugins. It's the last time I'm making that joke. All right, what's a caching plugin? Who knows?
I mean, it's okay, it's on your website.
It caches your website. It does, but the version that is served is different depending on what you're using. So with a caching plugin as well as a CDN, you'll see much better performance. And that's, yeah, I had the same thought and I tested it, and yeah, and the other thing too is a caching, especially something like WP Rocket, a caching plugin is kind of like a catch-all term for what it does, but it does a lot of different stuff. But yeah, basically what the gentleman in the back just pointed out is that a caching plugin serves a static version of your website once someone has come to it. So basically they come to your website and they see the version that the PHP and everything had to deliver to you, and let's face it, you don't change your blogs every day. Well, I mean, I don't. So why serve up this custom page every day when you can serve a cached version? So why WP Rocket? Because you can tell that I'm pretty enamored with it, right? These 6 plugins cover like 70% of what it does. You've got to install 6 plugins to get the same outcome as you could do with WP Rocket. And it just blew my mind. It's $50, I think. But shop around, there's some cheaper versions of it. But when I put it in, I saw like a 3-second drop in my page speed. I didn't actually think it would make that much difference. I used to use Total Cache, which is great, but you kind of need like a degree in fucking around with plugins to make W3 Total. There's some nods in the back here. It has every conceivable thing that you could do, and I tried a lot of them. WP Rocket, you kind of put it in, you hit go, and there's like 10 or 20 things that you click on or off, and then it just goes. It's fucking nuts. So it'll clean up your database, it'll control heartbeat. I'm going to get into some of these terms because we'll be here all day. It does lazy loading of images and videos. It'll host your Google Fonts locally. It'll host your analytics locally, and it do the integration, like I said, with the 2 different CDNs. It's amazing. Buy it, get it. You can call me and thank me later. It's just freaking great. There's only certain plugins with WP Engine. It's because they've got their own caching versions. So if I was on WP Engine, which some of my clients are, I use Auto Optimize. It's missing an O, but it's the top one there, Auto Optimize. Because that'll do a lot of the things that WP Rocket will do without getting in the way. But you will need an additional plugin if you're going to do another CDN. Some others are Supercache and W3 Total Cache. They're also great plugins. They're free rather than costing $50. But really, it's $50. It's an issue if you've got 200 websites and you need to buy one for each, but if you're just running one website for one company, there's no reason not to spend these small amounts of money. It's it's just great. I can't overstate it enough. So, how are we going? Who's feeling like Willow? Like, man, this guy can talk. He must really like websites. Jeez. All right, cool. So, what I need you to do, you're going to spend 10 minutes, get up, talk to someone you don't know, go downstairs and get a drink, and I will see you back here in 10 minutes as we go to dig a little bit deeper. There we go. All right. Hilariously, 2 seconds before she started doing this, I went, how am I going to teach you to dig in there? But she worked it out. I don't know why. I thought she would have trouble working out what it did. So, like Willow, we're now going to dig a little deeper. You know, so tie it all together. Yeah, it's good, eh? Yeah. All right, so we're digging deeper. So the first section is if you can do nothing else, do these 4 things. That's why I said they're all the most important things. But yeah, if you can do do those. Take a couple hours at the most. Do them all. Get a faster site. Here are some additional things you can do. So you can self-host your Google Fonts. Why would you care? Who cares? You care because to get Google Fonts on your website, it needs to make a request to Google. It's slowing things down. It's making more requests. I said less requests are better. So, and especially this kind of request where it's not actually to your server, it's to somewhere else. Self-host them. Basically, it takes a style sheet, the styles from Google, and puts it in your own style sheets. It's not very hard to do, and it's well worth it in terms of a plugin to make your site faster. I think I saw 0.2 of a second increase when I put this plugin on my website. So quite a substantial increase. 0.2 of a second is. Some things give you huge return, but still 0.2 is fantastic. This is amazing. All right, web developers, listen up. This is nuts. So what is it? It's called Asset Cleanup Page Speed Booster. I get the Pro version, but you don't really need it. I just thought it was cool. You turn this thing on, and this will give you the ability with a very simple button interface to turn on or off every single JavaScript and CSS call on that page. It's amazing. It's not for the faint-hearted. I think I spent 5 hours playing with this once. I'm a nerd. It was great. But you can go page by page, and you can create rules to say, I only want this script to be loaded on this page, or I don't want it to be loaded at all. And you can make such a difference to a page speed. So let's give an example. WooCommerce. WooCommerce is a heavy plugin. WooCommerce is what people use to turn a WordPress website into an e-commerce website. It's very heavy, but it only needs to function. It only needs to run on your pages that sell shit. So your homepage, you don't need it most of the time. Your blog, don't need it. With this, you can just go in and turn it off. You don't need to be, web developer genius. You can go through and just turn it off. Gutenberg is a big change that's happening with WordPress at the moment. A lot of people, like myself, haven't embraced it yet. I'm getting there. But I can just turn it off with this, so that it's not taking up resources. There's no calls, there's no CSS, there's no JavaScript, nothing. With the Pro version, you can also async and defer, depending on the thing. And it is a fiddler's dream. People like to tinker. You go in, you turn a couple of them off, you flush all your cache, you go and look at, oh, cool, that didn't work, it's fucked. Or, cool, it's quicker. Or, you've messed around with it and you've got your website page speed to 1.5 seconds. And you realise it's broken, like this little menu thing that you didn't really notice, and now you've got to wind it all back. It's heaps of fun. No, seriously, this is amazing. So we're getting into the nitty and gritty stuff here. Like all the stuff I've covered already, you put it in, you press a button, it goes. So this is where you start to dig a little bit deeper and really start to tweak and get in there, get dirty. It's cool. It's awesome. Lazy load images. So we were talking before about a website. You're looking at a page. You only need to see the bits that you're looking at. If you're loading everything else before then, creating more time that doesn't need to be there. Lazy loading images is a way to solve that, so that images only load when you look at them. Does that make sense? In fact, if you scroll through a website, you'll see these images sort of come up. And another popular thing at the moment is to make them blurry, and then they suddenly appear. That's lazy loading as well. Honestly, I don't use this one myself. Like I've used it for clients' websites, but I back myself in and know that I can build a website that's fast enough without it. But it's another good win that you can put in there. If you're not getting to that under 2 seconds that you're aiming for, this will definitely help you. And there are lots of different plugins. This is just, A3 is just one of my favorites. WP Rocket have their own standalone version. They're all free. Google has a version as well, which broke my website when I put it on, but which just leverages some new code, it's actually really fascinating and cool. Lazy load videos. This is another amazing win. So you've got videos on your website because you want interesting and engaging content. I had a client website where it was exercise stuff. So we had exercises, and on these exercise pages, they were slow, like 4.5 seconds. And it's because they were embedded with the standard WordPress embed function, which means that it loads all of the controls and everything to make a YouTube video run before you go and look at it. It's nuts. Lazy load videos means it just puts an image where your video would be and a play button, and when you hit play, then it loads all the back-end stuff to make your video work. Brilliant. I think we got 2 seconds out of this plugin. It was nuts. Again, that's why I love WP Rocket, because you just hit a button and you go, boom, done. It's there. You don't have to install anything extra. The Facebook pixel is evil. Facebook is evil. No. I was shocked by this because I love Tag Manager, and I put a lot of stuff in Tag Manager, and it does amazing stuff. But when I turned Tag Manager off, I got 2 seconds back, and I went, oh, this is amazing and terrifying. Why? So I started turning things on and off, and the Facebook pixel was the biggest culprit. So between half a second and a second, you lose by loading the Facebook pixel. So look, if you're advertising on Facebook, you need the pixel to make sure that you're driving traffic and that things are working. If you've got a Facebook page and you don't advertise very often, or you advertise in a way that doesn't drive people to your website, you don't need that remarketing data, turn it off. It's shit. It's just, it takes up so much space. Once I took that off, it was quite a reasonable load time to keep Tag Manager. So I actually do keep Tag Manager on there. It's a pretty light addition to a website, but everything slows your website down that requires extra calls. Tag Manager is no exception, but it's such a useful tool in marketing that I'm willing to cop that. But yeah, Facebook, I'm really picky about when I have the pixel on, which is so new to me because I'm a marketer, right? I want to track everything. So the first thing I do is put the pixel on, make sure I'm tracking everything. But just be aware that it's going to decrease your load time by half a second to a second, which doesn't sound like much, but when you've worked your ass off to get a 3 second or 2 second load time, and you turn this off and now you get a 2 second load time, you're like, oh fuck, you bastard. Google Maps. Google Maps to me are like sliders. I haven't even got sliders in here. Who here likes sliders, like on the homepage? I'm really curious. A couple people. Yeah, that's all right. I'm not everybody. I hate them. I hate them so much. They're very heavy from a code perspective. I don't know many people that sit and watch it.
When you've got a graphic design background, you love it because they're beautiful.
Yeah, but you can design a beautiful page with scrolling content rather than horizontal content. I hate them. A lot of people, yeah, and I'm not alone. There are a lot of people that aren't a big fan of them these days. I see Google Maps as the next sort of carousel. Google Maps is one of those things that people put on their website because it's cool, but the functionality, there's not a lot that it does. But this is what it does to the calls on your web. Can you see how many calls? This is all Google Maps. This is nuts. This is slowing your website down. For what? So that when you roll over it, the little thing lights up, and you click on it, it takes you to Google Maps. There's a clear solution to this. Put a picture of a map with a link to Google Maps. You get 0 calls. You speed up your website. You get not all the functionality. You get the little pin doesn't light up as you hover over it, but I can see the developers here already thinking, oh, I could fix that, yeah. I can make you roll over it and make that, yeah, I reckon I could too. Google Maps, there's another one. That and the Facebook Pixel were 2 of the biggest shocks to me to go, holy shit, I can't believe how much of a difference this makes. All right. Remove useless plugins. I had some great feedback from someone in the crowd that said, I think you're giving people the wrong impression about plugins. I've got lots of clients that just install plugins willy-nilly and they mess up websites and slow them down. And he is right. I don't know how many times I've looked in the back of a WordPress website and there's like 50 plugins. Like, are you serious? I can't believe that the poor server could even push anything out with all of these things going. Having a lot of plugins is a real problem. So let me be clear. I've vetted every plugin that I've put on this list, and I hand on heart believe that every plugin that I've talked about here will only increase your speed. In saying that, lots of plugins will very much decrease your speed. That's because we were talking about our packages going on the rollers before. Well, plugins are designed to sort of change what's in that box. So every plugin is another something picking it up, changing the box, putting it back on the roller again. So if you've got 50 plugins, that's like 50 times it gets picked up, put down, picked up, put down, picked up, put down. So it doesn't matter how fast your rollers are then, you're still in trouble. Stay away from having lots of plugins for no reason at all. They've got to have a really good business case. And if you can, talk to your web developer, and they'll build you a better solution than a lot of these crappy plugins. So just be aware that lots of plugins is not good. So try and remove them where you can. All right. Now underneath that image, update the latest version of PHP. I'm not quite sure what that word version. Update to the latest PHP version is what's underneath that image. Yeah, I was doing it late last night. PHP is basically what WordPress websites run on, for those of you who don't know. It's the server-side language of it. And it's a really quick win. I've seen lots of times where you get a WordPress website and it's running PHP 5.6. And you just go in and press a button in your cPanel and now it's running 7.2 and it's like, whoa, it's twice as fast. Magic. It's not magic. It's PHP. Any questions on that? It's pretty straightforward. Contact your developer, or look at your hosting, or if you've got a good backups. Like, some of this stuff will get you into trouble, but what I really want to make clear is that you should still try it. Like, get a good backup system. Make sure you know how to load a backup of your website, and then turn the latest version of PHP on, and then see what happens. If it breaks, then put it back. Like, they're not going to explode. I remember a friend's mum was like worried that we would make the VCR explode when we were kids, because we would mess around with it, set timer. But like that kid mind of just, how does that work? I press that, I'll do that. That's how you learn and discover. So I really hope that you guys get inspired to try some of this stuff out. Enable gzip compression. I know that this works, but I'm honest to tell you that I had to go and look up what it meant, because I didn't know. But basically it's compressing the data that comes from your server to your website, and then it can uncompress on the other end. Again, it's oversimplified, but I'm just... gzip is another great thing server-side that you can set up that will speed up your website. If you don't know what it is and you're having trouble setting it up, talk to your web developer. All right, now, development considerations. This was all kind of put together with the idea that you have a WordPress website that you want to speed up. Sometimes you have such an old, crappy WordPress website that really the only thing you can do is start again. And websites kind of like have dog years times 2. So if you've got a 2-year-old website, it's 14 years old. You really should be looking to refresh your website regularly. Not You know, I've had it for 6 or 7 years. That's way too old for a website. You know, that's way, way, way too old. And at the very least, you've got to keep it up to date. I saw a website recently where they had a theme in it. It's called the 7. I don't know if any of you guys remember that, any of the developers. It's old, and the version of it was 2.4, and the latest version was 7.9. I looked it up, and it hasn't been updated. The theme hadn't been updated in 5 years. I was like, can't imagine why this isn't working. Sometimes you really can't fix a pig website. You need to start again. So I've got some suggestions on how you would approach that. All right. These are my lightweight theme suggestions. I'm a bit scared that a developer's going to come and hunt me down for this. But these are the only 2 that I've seen that have done really lightweight development on and still works quite well. And that is Oxygen Builder. This blew my mind using this. A really interesting thing that you can do if you're a big nerd is create a blank page on your website and then run the blank page for a page speed test and for GT metrics. And then see how many calls and how long it takes to load. Nothing. You would be surprised. I've had websites that take 10 seconds to load nothing. That gives you a good idea of how much crap is in the back end of that. So when you're building these really fully fledged websites off of a theme, themes are there to get anyone in on a website, but they have every different option you could possibly have, which means that all of that code is in the back end that needs to be run every time that website goes. These 2 themes are not too bad as a starting point if you really must use like a purchase theme. Like I'm talking more to developers here. Everyone uses a starter theme, whether it's Roots or Dopey Rig or, you know, I understand that, but these are different. All right. So some custom build considerations. So you've decided you're going to build a website. Communication is key. So I actually had this experience recently where I had a really good friend of mine who's a developer who did me a deal on, I got a little bit of side hustle with some e-com sites. And he, you know, when we first discussed it, he was talking about advanced custom fields. Anyone here use that plugin? I love ACF. Anyway, so it's amazing. And then he changed to something called Elementor, and I hadn't heard of it. And I said, yeah, you know, he said it's really fast, it's really good. I hate this plugin so much. I'm so angry. It's just the heaviest piece of shit. It's got everything in it. Elementor. I think it's on my list of stay away from. Is that up there? Is it the next one? Yeah, don't use Visual Composer or Elementor. They suck. They suck because they've got everything in it. It's just no. Just no. They're horrible. If you need a page builder, like I said, Advanced Custom Fields allows a developer to build functionality into code blocks. So, for instance, an image on the left and text on the right. So when you edit it as a user, you put your image in there and you put your text in there. You know, you can still have that functionality without needing all the weight of these really heavy builders. They're just horrible. And I did manage to get that site that he built me from 11 seconds down to 1, but that was probably 15 or 20 hours of just grind. You know, admittedly I loved it. You know, because I love learning all this stuff and I love optimization. But, you know, if you're clear with your developer that it must load in under 2 seconds, they can do that for you. You know, it's very reasonable, it's very achievable, but you have to have that conversation early on. So make sure when they set up everything, they're using the latest version of PHP. Talk to them about deferring and asyncing JavaScript. That's running your JavaScript later down the page, or if you've got some more advanced developer, it's only running elements when it's kind of like lazy loading, but whole content blocks. Ensure CSS and JavaScript is minified. I didn't talk much about this because it kind of comes in WP Rocket, Auto Optimize, and Asset Cleanup Pro. All have this functionality built into them, but minification of JavaScript and CSS is basically when you write the code for a human to read it, you put spaces and you code the way that you know how to code. With minification, it squeezes everything together so that you're not paying for spaces, and if you're replicating something, you're doing it a bit dumb. Minification will sometimes take some of those extra bits out for you as well. Now, build with WP Rig. Who's heard of WP Rig? No one. John, I'm going to talk about you again, man. I don't know if you actually watch my videos, but I'm talking to you like you're here. John Alderson is one of the head guys working for Yoast. Everyone knows the Yoast SEO plugin. He's a very smart guy. And I quote, WP Rig is what WordPress would be if we built it today properly. It's a fantastic DevOps tool, like a tool that you can use to build websites on. And it has a lot of this stuff built into it. So things like the Google fonts, it's already built in, so that you don't need to worry about a plugin to do that. I was talking about minification before, it actually takes the code and then makes it simpler and better. It just like rewrites it all so that it's neater and there's less crap. And as you scroll through the page, this blew my mind, it actually makes the CSS calls as the content comes up, which is sort of the way it should be now. Like it's basically lazy loading all the content. So it'll only load the bits that you see, and as you scroll down, it'll load the content blocks and do the CSS calls as you go. Lightning fast, really progressive kind of setup. I'm very excited to be using it and to be learning about it. And if anyone has any more, wants to geek out with me afterwards, I'll be more than happy to talk about it. So those are my considerations. So the big thing here is to make it clear to the developer that you want it to be quick. And then be also ready to make some sacrifices. So if you want a full page video on your homepage that loads when you start, you don't want a fast website. You have to make these calls, you know? Like I was saying about before with the photographer, if photography is your key thing, then you need to trade that off with how your SEO is going to work. Maybe you need to do paid advertising, because if you need it to be beautiful, they need to be really, I mean, you can get them to 90%, but if you're like, I don't know if anyone knows designers here. Some designers, they're just like, it has to be perfect. And if that's what you need out of your website to appeal to your audience, then I completely understand that. But then you need to make a trade-off. So I'm going to have a slower website and I'm going to find a different way to drive traffic to it because Google's going to hate it. That's cool. But yeah, understand that there are trade-offs to be made and have those conversations early on with your developer and your development company. All right, what do we got here? Dun, dun, dun. AMP. Who knows what AMP is? We've got a few. Accelerated mobile pages. I have some pretty strong feelings about this. So what AMP is? AMP's a platform developed primarily by Google, but other people as well. JavaScript based, all your CSS is inline. It's lightning quick. So you can take this plugin, you can put it in your website, and suddenly everything loads quicker. But it takes a lot away from you. There's a lot of things you can't do with this. You know, there's a lot of prettiness you can't do with it. There are some really good use cases for it. So if you've got a news website, at Fuller we're working with a science company who just does 5-10 blog posts a day, and they're all based on science. They're all newsy. When you look at Google Discover, I don't know how many people use Google Discover, but when you swipe across on an Android device, you've got all those different like suggested news stories and stuff. That's dominated by AMP. See that little lightning bolt in the corner there? That's AMP. And it's dominated. So if you're a news aggregator, you write news regularly, AMP is your friend. You must be using AMP. Everyone else, like, I heard another quote of someone, I can't remember his name, he was another really into this kind of stuff guy, goes, AMP is for losers or people who have given up. I have a real problem with giving Google the keys to the internet, because if we all suddenly go onto AMP, Google then dictates what the web looks like. I mean, they already do that to an extent, but this is worse. You have less control over your content, there's certain things, that you can't run at all on your website. So AMP is a great silver bullet. If you've got someone who's well-versed in AMP, you put the plugin on, and sometimes it just works. Suddenly, magically, your pages are plainer and boringer, but much, much quicker. Obviously you can tell I'm a little leaning one way here, or a lot. But it does work in certain use cases, and it is a solution to speed problems. Just know that it comes with some rather big trade-offs, like, you know, your URL is no longer your URL, it's served by Google, and then it's got your URL. You know, you're far less, and yes, Cloudflare is now giving you the option to change that, but it's only in certain use cases. My point is, it's a tool, it's useful in some cases, but honestly, if you go through the steps that I've given you today, you should be able to get a sub 2 second website really, you know, well, not easily, but you can do it. And to get something under 3 seconds, I think most people can take an existing website, follow these steps, and get pretty close to 3 seconds first content paid, if not full load speed off of the things that I've covered today. Now, we did have a request to just quickly go through the waterfall. Does anyone else want to see the waterfall, like the different parts and how it works? Because from here, from memory, it's questions. So I'll let you get to questions after I do the waterfall. Is that cool? Yeah, no one's dying to leave? Or if they are, they're not brave enough to just walk out? It's all right.
Turn this way. Speak out.
Yeah, run! All right. GT metrics. And what have we got here? We've got Haig's Chocolates, my old friend. All right, and we've got the waterfall. All right, let's get that up there. So one of the cool things here is you can actually filter. So you can see HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So a really interesting one is for me is fonts. 3.65 seconds to load the fonts. That's crazy. 3 seconds to load the fonts for the page. They're fonts. No, that's goddamn terrible. And yeah, font awesome is usually a normal culprit for that. No, use Google Fonts, guys. All right, images. This will be another really, really telling one. So we can see down here, it's a little bit hard to read, but we talked about the page weight before being 4.8 meg. 4 meg is just images. So you can see if they went and optimized these images and it went from 4 meg to half a meg, that is 90% of their problem right there. It's just all of these images slowing everything down. And then the next culprit is usually CSS or JavaScript. CSS is actually quite good, which is nice to see. And yeah, JavaScript. So they've got a lot of JavaScript running here. Let's see if we can pull out. There's Tag Manager right there. That's cool. Yeah, 4.45 seconds for Tag Manager. I guarantee their hosting company has an animal on it. I feel pretty confident there's an animal for their hosting company. All right, let's go back to all. And what as we're scrolling down, you can see the flow as things come through. Now, there's no real obvious kind of. Sometimes you'll run this and there'll be this one long block that's stopping everything else, and you can talk to your developer and go, "Hey, man, what's this? Like, can you help me with this? Like, this is hurting me." But these guys just have a lot of images, which are really hampering their problems, really making it harder for them. So what you can scroll down and see individually like what's being pulled here. And whilst it, for those of you who haven't done this sort of stuff before, it seems like magic. If you spend an hour with it, it'll actually, CloudFront really, it'll actually become quite obvious what each one is. Like you can break it down into sections and then you can actually click on it and go and find out more information. But this is a good place you can go to try and find things that are really holding you up. In terms of the coloured bars, I always forget what so most of it, the problem here is blocking. So that's where the server is being, it's waiting for that resource to load. All right. Did that cover? Yep.
What are the vertical coloured lines?
Which ones? This?
No, slightly after.
This?
I think like time to first item.
Oh, where, there?
The thin line.
The thin line. I'm blind.
At the bottom, maybe?
I'm over here.
Just below the fonts.
Just below the fonts, images. Oh, the timeline. This one here.
Yeah, timeline's got a blue line and a red line. I think they're kind of like when people can see content in it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right.
So that can show how significant an effect the waterfall is. People aren't seeing everything until it gets to the heart.
Thanks, Tony. I didn't even know what those lines. I ignored those lines, to be honest with you. I didn't even know what they did. There you go. Collaborative learning. Awesome. And you see they've got a favicon problem as well. That's probably not great because Google are now showing there's a 404 on their favicon. Google is showing favicon in search results now, so it's not a good look if yours doesn't show up. You get a little weld rather than yours, so it's not good. You also see, like there's Google Pixel is in here as well. You can see where it's come from. That's doubleclick.net, which is Google. There's also ads.yahoo, so that'll be Yahoo. Pinterest. Yeah, so they've really got absolutely everything. There's Facebook, my old mate, and then another Facebook and another Facebook. So yeah, with a bit of time, you get a pretty good understanding of what each of these do, and there's some good YouTube videos as well on it. If you just type in understanding the waterfall WordPress speed. Does that cover what you're looking for? Yep. All right. We will go back here. I don't want to cover things in too much depth because really I could just look at waterfall charts all night, and I think you would lynch me. Questions? Hit me. Nothing.
I've got a question. You said get rid of useless plugins.
Yeah.
What are the 2 or 3 most useless plugins that tend to be popular?
Well, Instagram images. If you want to slow down your website, put a little grid of Instagram images in your footer. In fact, put Instagram images next to a Google map.
What if the most of your engagement comes from Instagram and your traffic comes from Instagram?
What's
There are a lot of small businesses that have Instagram.
yeah. But are you saying engagement? So most of your traffic is coming from Instagram. Why do they need to see?
If I'm using user content on Instagram, for example, and I want that to be reflected as me engaging with my clients, or whatever. So it's part of the game that they see the content on the website. And a lot of companies do that.
Oh yeah, and there are good ways and bad ways to do that. So first of all, it's talking about intent. So what you're trying to drive, what outcome you're trying to drive. Like it can't just be pretty. You're making a valid point, which is that they engage with your content on Instagram, they come to your website, they feel at home because they're seeing the same content. But there's a lot of ways you can do that without pulling the feed directly from Instagram. You can pick your best 4 pictures and put them in a little. You can still put them in the footer. You can still put half a dozen images, but make them static. Don't make them dynamic that they pull through with this horrible using the API to pull these God knows what size images through. Have control of it. Pick your favorite images and put them in static images.
I think you just assume that they're going to be tiny pictures because they come in from Instagram and
You do assume that they. Yeah. Unfortunately, and that's the thing. It's all about having these honest conversations because the developer made that because someone wanted it because they were being helpful. They weren't thinking about page speed when they made it. That's all. So yeah, that one's a bit of a killer in terms of plugins. It's a damn good question. It's more the volume rather than individuals that really trip me up. They've got lots of functionality they don't need, like they've got Buddy Press on. So the Buddy Press is a plugin that gives you turns your website into a forum, and then they don't use it. Like you have the comment section. What more do you need? Like if you need it, then that's good. But if you don't, then it's a waste of time. Jetpack. Jetpack's one of my favorite shit plugins. So Jetpack, for all of you that don't know, it's kind of those plugins that you can do everything with. You can add extra functionality using this plugin. But most people just use it to get like a little dashboard, and it sucks. Like, it's just so slow. It's horrible. I hate it. There's no one fight me on it, so I'm just going to keep making these statements. In fact, I saw some nods in the back, so I'm the only one that hates it. So those are ones that I see quite regularly that aren't great. Same thing, pulling a Facebook feed in. Like, as long as you've got a good reason for it, like, you made some really valid points. But if you're just doing it because you've seen someone else do it, same with the carousels. Like, if there's some sort of reason where 90% of your traffic is desktop traffic and you've got fantastic dwell time on your homepage, and you've tested it and you find that people really like the sliders, and I mean tested it, not the CEO's husband likes it. I love that. My husband likes it. I don't care. What do the users want? Then there's really a use case for almost everything if it's within the right mindset. But if you're just doing it because it looks cool, or you saw someone else do it, so you're doing it, I think you're probably missing an opportunity there to have a lightning fast website and to beat out your competitors. That's something to really keep in mind. It's just because everyone else is doing it. If you're doing something different, you're innovating. You're making something, and a fast website is still quite an innovation on a lot of the crap that's out there. There are a lot of slow, heavy. Like I said, I love Hague's. I really do. But there's a 15-second load time, 6.8 to first content buy. That's nuts. Yeah. Thanks, Philip.
Fast websites. Why do you hate them so much?
Because I don't want to give Google everything. I feel like they've already got it all. I don't want to give them the last. And like,
Super fast.
it is, but you've got to do everything. You've got to do all your CSS in line. It's a real pain in the ass. It doesn't look as good as it could. I just don't want to give them any more than I already have. I feel a bit cheap and dirty already, I already use them for Google, for my email and for all my documents, and I'm already carrying my shoes and walking home. I don't want to get back in the car. AMP really is good at speeding up a website. It just comes with lots of limitations, and I think that's part of being, at my heart, I'll probably always be an SEO, even though I do all types of digital marketing. And I think you talk to most SEOs and they'll have a very similar reaction to it, where Google's they've taken enough. They've already taken all of our answers and put them in rich snippets so that they don't need our websites anymore, They're already trying to make us redundant.
Would you say that media queries are like a reasonable solution to that issue, like showing some features on a mobile and other features on a desktop?
So Google hate you hiding things from them. So if you use a media query to hide some of the content, you're going to be in trouble. The other thing too is that they're only indexing the mobile version of your website, so they don't really give a shit what's on the desktop. So if you're hiding it for mobile, you're missing out on an opportunity to rank. Media queries are a good point though, because when you're developing a website, really ask your developer to make it mobile first. So when they're putting their media queries in, make sure that they're doing min width rather than max width for their media query, so that everything is loaded for the mobile version that it needs to, and then as you're adding more stuff, you're adding it as the viewport gets bigger. It's important because the CSS is only going to get loaded for what it needs to be.
There's also some themes where you just choose this shows up on desktop.
You can. Like I said, if you're happy for Google not to see it and you're happy to not get any ranking out of it. Anything else? I've covered everything. Well, thanks guys. Hold on. Willow also thanks you. Thanks so much for coming. I really appreciate it. Like I said earlier, it warms my heart to see so many people come and hear me nerd out something that I'm so passionate about. We'll be back in for the last one this year, where hopefully got Waj Quasi coming in to talk about his takeaways from MozCon. I'm super excited because I can't afford to go, so I'm going to sit in the front seat like a fangirl or fanboy.
27th of November.
27th of November. I never forget. I never remember these dates. That's really, really bad of me. Thank you all so much for coming. Have a fantastic night. Network chat.